Alex Hormozi has been known to have some choice words on the idea of productivity hacks. And in a recent podcast with Chris Williamson, he brought up this topic. And in today's video, I wanted to discuss what he said and work out whether we really are wasting our time with all these practices. Stay tuned. Time is a currency and we're constantly spending it, whether it's by forming a new business, studying for an exam, or creating a new YouTube channel. And if you're anything like me, you have these big goals that you want to achieve as quickly as possible. And to do that, we need to spend it wisely. And that's one of the reasons I was drawn to productivity practices in the first place. This idea that there's these proven methods to streamline your path from point A to point B was really attractive. But Alex has different ideas.
There have been so many times in my life where I knew I needed to do something, and then I filled all this extra time not doing that thing. And then the moment I did it, I was like, wow, that took way less time than I thought it was going to take. And not only that, it took way less time than it took me to delay to actually get to this point. And if I had only started with just doing what I was supposed to do, I could have done 4 or 5 other things that I was also supposed to do by this exact same point.
In this clip, he's explaining that if we didn't spend so much time preparing to get our work done, that actually, if we just started in the first place, we can get a lot more done. And I've got to say, I've fallen victim to doing this myself. At one point, I was obsessed with becoming this productivity machine. I would wake up every day and go through this 2-hour morning routine that was supposed to prepare me to get work done. But actually, if I just cut that down a little bit, I would have got a lot more done each day. See, the thing is, we have a limited amount of time each day to follow our goals, especially if you're working in a full-time job like I am, or you have kids or a social life. Can you imagine? So I would implore anyone watching this video to do an honest cost to benefit analysis on your productivity practices, with the cost being the amount of time and the benefit being how much closer they get you to your goals. See, some productivity practices will put you in the right mindset to get work done. For example, each morning I like to take 10 or 15 minutes to go for a walk. This allows me to de-jumble my brain and get me focused and concentrated when I need to get work done. The key is these 15 minutes in the long run allow me to move closer to my goals than if I just started working in the first place, because I can get so much more done and not hit a creative block later in the day. However, as a counterexample, I stopped taking ice baths. They would take so long to prepare, and sure, I would feel good for a little bit afterwards, but often in the afternoon, I'd hit an energy crash and wouldn't be able to get any more work done. So in this case, the cost of time just wasn't worth the benefit. So ask yourself honestly, is there any of your productivity practices you're currently doing that just aren't worth the amount of time they take? And alongside time, Hormozi also highlighted some other potential costs of productivity practices.
Like, you can just start working, because as soon as you get into it, you start pulling the thread and you're like, oh, here it is. And all of the time that I was getting ready to work, I was just using up my best brain power time on things that truly don't move the needle at all.
Some practices like journaling allow me to organize and shuffle around things in my brain, so I'm able to focus and concentrate when it comes to getting work done. However, what I think Hormozi is referring to here is that some people have these practices in their routine that lead to mental fatigue, or less brain power, as he puts it. For me, planning leaves me exhausted. If I sit down and plan out my day hour by hour, and I know when my breaks are and what exactly it is I'm going to do today, firstly, I don't even follow the plan anyway, but secondly, it leaves me demotivated and, to be honest, just overwhelmed. So essentially, I've spent all this time creating something completely useless that gets me nowhere closer to my goals and leaves me with all these negative feelings. Probably not a good way to spend my time. So now instead, I just write down a simple list of things I want to get done each day, and I just stick to that. It's not quite as romantic as having a 5-year plan and a complete structure to my weeks, but it gets the job done and it leaves me feeling more positive and motivated. See, the issue is things like planning and meditation feel good. They give you the sense that you're moving, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're moving towards your goals. Being busy does not equal progress. And that's a big issue in the productivity movement today, that people have become so obsessed with being productive instead of achieving their goals. So be honest and always keep your goal in mind, not this feeling of being productive or getting a lot done.
I would delineate the difference between preparation and routine. And so if I'm preparing for a presentation, for example, I might assemble my notes. I might read some stuff about the audience ahead of time. I might read about whoever's, doing the event and learn more about that. I see that as preparation for the thing, which I still see as work. And I think some people, I made a post about how preparation is like everything. I put a lot into preparation. They're like, oh, see, you have a morning routine. I was like, no, I don't need to stand on one foot and do 17 cold plunges and write 6 affirmations, because none of those things are directly related to the work that I'm going to do.
A massive portion of the productivity space online talks about habits and routine. I myself am a big believer in habits, especially after reading the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, which is a great book, by the way. But what Hormozi said here really did make me think. The idea that all of our practices should be preparation for getting work done is really interesting, but I think it misses out the importance of feeling good and of having a routine. It's okay if some of your practices and your habits are simply just to make you feel good and give you the motivation to get work done, but you need to be honest with yourself and acknowledge that. Additionally, this idea of routine getting in the way of achieving our goals is also really interesting to me. Our routine is essentially a system of behaviors, and as the quote goes by James Clear, you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So in some sense, I do think we need to have some kind of consistency when it comes to our positive behaviors. Otherwise, we go through this mental fatigue and anxiety every day by having to make all of these decisions. But I think what Alex is trying to say here is that sometimes people get so obsessed with ticking off our to-do lists and going through our daily practices that we forget the point of them in the first place. And if you've gone through the previous steps, you'll know that the point of these practices is to move us closer to our goals. So some days, perhaps engaging in a daily practice isn't what you need. Instead, you just need to sit down and get work done. And in my opinion, to overcome this, it just requires honesty. Perhaps sit down every so often and go through your productivity practices and work out which ones are moving you in the right direction.
And we've spoken about this before, but it's, there are certain things that you can do that will make success or productivity or focus more likely and better.
Totally.
That doesn't mean that you should disregard them. That over-reliance on them makes a very fragile, unrobust way to get into working.
There is a massive problem in the productivity movement. This idea of being productive has become completely separated from achieving your goals. And this is something I went through in a previous video talking about something that I call pseudo-productivity. And if you're interested to know whether you may be wasting hours of your life stuck in this very cycle, feel free to check out the video right here. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. And aside from that, have a lovely day. Bye-bye.